Welcome to the Tony Frida Show. Tony Frida here. I want to do a little film review today. I had the pleasure of watching one movie called Backrooms, summer blockbuster, and the extreme displeasure of watching Spielberg's train wreck, Disclosure Day. I think it's the worst movie he ever made, but I think there's a lot of nefarious propaganda crammed into this cringe fest of a movie. And it was pretty shameful, really. It was embarrassingly dumbed down and predictable and not very interesting. Any episode of The X-Files was way more nuanced and well-written and more interesting than this piece of slop. So Spielberg's been out promoting the movie, and he says this movie will shake the foundation of people's faith. The only thing that shook my faith in is Steven Spielberg, because it was almost like he was confessing to us that he's not a good filmmaker, because this thing sucked. Pardon my French. I think there was three overriding messages of propaganda, ham-fisted propaganda in this cringe-orama fest. Just to give a little background of the film, the plot, these two people, one's like a tech bro, and one's this woman who's in the mainstream media. She's a weather girl. And you find out that they were both abducted as children by the aliens, and that they have a special mission. They were given these special gifts by the aliens. But the way the aliens abducted them is very interesting. They come to their room, middle of the night, and they appear as these really bad CGI Disney-fied woodland creatures. Very friendly, nice little faces. They look totally fake. I mean, the CGI looked like it was 20 years old. I mean, I could do a better job using Midjourney to make it more realistic. Deer. It was a cardinal, a deer, and a raccoon or something. Anyway, they were really, I don't know, purposely bad, but they were bad. Very unbelievable. And so these woodland creatures that actually the aliens are disguised as these friendly woodland creatures lead these children into what they call in the movie the Hansel and Gretel house. Okay? It's this house in the woods. It's like fairy tale house that looks like the Hansel and Gretel house. And we know that the Hansel and Gretel house in the Grimm fairy tale is a place where children are eaten. So the nice friendly aliens bring them to this place where we know symbolically and through the mythology is a place where children are abused and eaten. This is very interesting. They went out of the way to say it's called the Hansel and Gretel house. So it wasn't like subtle at all, like everything in this movie. It was like getting hit over the head with a brick. But so they go to this Hansel and Gretel house, which is really an alien spaceship, and they're tortured there, and they're subjected to these horrible experiments that traumatize them to their core, to the extent where they have to repress the memories for their whole adult life because it's so painful to deal with. I'm not going to spoil it. If you want to watch this, I wouldn't recommend it, but if you do, they go through a series of things that help them remember and recover these memories with help from this group of good guys who were trying to get this information about the aliens, how they're so wonderful, and they're here to help us and teach us about empathy, and they're better than us, the horrible humans. That message is clear. We're bad, they're good. There's also this weird Christian stuff in there where there's a nun and there's crucifixes, and basically the message is Jesus is okay, but the aliens are better. You know, you can have faith in Jesus, but the real God is these wonderful alien friendly illegal aliens, right? So it's obviously a metaphor for accepting mass immigration, illegal alien. So that's one of the messages, that we have to accept this, and anybody who doesn't is a bad person. The other message, which was really bizarre, this guy who is the tech bro, steals these files that prove that the aliens and the alien technology exist, and the government's known about it since 1947, right? So the whole movie is him trying to get this information out to the public, and it's just a series of chase scenes. The best scene in the movie is a chase scene with a train that it doesn't advance the plot at all. It's just like this gratuitous chase scene where it's Spielberg showing what he's good at. I mean, it was a great scene, an action scene, but it had nothing to do with the plot. It just was like a tacked on action scene, very well crafted cinematically, but who cares? It had nothing to do with the story. So, and Emily Blunt's performance as the weather girl was great. She's a great actress, but even she, to be blunt, couldn't save this train wreck. So the whole movie is them trying to get this information out to the world, right? I mean, all he had to do was upload it to YouTube. So anybody could do that, right? Or Instagram or wherever, or Substack. But no, in this movie, the only place he can release it is the mainstream media, right? And she works with mainstream media, so she's the connection to it. So the other second message of this movie is the mainstream media is our savior. They're the good guys. They're going to tell us the truth. So again, this is like the inversion principle or the law of reversal at work, because the mainstream media are the enemies of the truth. They're the enemies of humanity. We know that. They sell us the wars. They sell us the fake pandemics. They sell us whatever they're told to sell by their masters, which are the deep state, military industrial complex, and the pharmaceutical industry, and big food and big agri. People who pay their bills and tell them what to say and what not to say. They're demons, okay? But this whole movie it was like a last ditch effort to reclaim some sort of moral authority to the mainstream media at a time when trust in the mainstream media is rightly so at an all-time low. They have no credibility. They should be mocked mercilessly. And anybody who believes a word they say, I use them as an inverse compass. So if they say something, I know it's not only not true, but I know the opposite is true. The inversion principle, because that's the principle, the satanic principle that is their guiding principle. And anyway, all this whole chase scene stuff happens, and the bad guys are trying to kill them so they don't release this information. They make this ridiculous case, which I always thought was ridiculous, that if the public knows about it, there'll be mass chaos and pandemonium, and everybody's faith will be shattered. And it's like, meanwhile, in the real world, congressmen have been releasing this stuff. They're doing it in Congress, slowly, piecemeal, releasing videos of spaceships and pilots' testimony and evidence, real evidence of that aliens are real. And nobody cares. It's like, I thought people would care more than they do, but it's just like another dopamine hit on your scroll, and then you scroll to the next thing. It's not like the end of the world and everybody's panicking and there's mass chaos and wars and riots. There's nothing. Nobody cares. So that whole premise that we've been told, like, that's ostensibly why the government's been hiding it from us, because we can't handle the truth. We can handle the truth. And there's other reasons why they haven't told us, which have to do with keeping their own power and keeping a monopoly on this information for their own purposes and the technology, so they can use it for warfare and for war against us. And that's the real reason they're hiding it from us. And the third message of this thing is, at the very end, so obvious and predictable, I'll tell you, they get to the news station and they broadcast this information to the whole world, and CNN's the hero. They're using their names like CNN and New York Times, and all the mainstream media are our saviors, and they are telling the truth, and they're the good guys. And the very last word of the movie, the alien whispers something to the main character, this weather girl, Emily Blunt, and then she says, "Listen." That's the last word. Listen to what? You didn't have to tell us anything. We went through all this crap with these aliens, and we never hear what the alien had to say. He whispers it to her. So what they're saying is, you can trust us. We're the mainstream media. The aliens are friendly. The illegal aliens and other aliens, we're all on your side, and we're here to tell you the truth. So you better listen to what we tell you next. And I think that was pre-programming for what has been dubbed Project Bluebeam. Project Bluebeam was first leaked by Canadian investigative journalist Sergei Monast in 1994. And the whole idea is that the government has this high-tech plan to fake an alien invasion using holograms, like projecting holograms of either God or aliens speaking to them. Also using telepathic electronic communication, low frequency VLF waves to send telepathic messages directly into our brains, so we believe God is talking to us, and they're going to give us the messages they want us to hear, and we'll believe it's the voice of God. This is the basis of Project Bluebeam, and I think all of this alien stuff we've been seeing, the slow disclosure and the leaking and the little bits of evidence here and there, and congressmen going on these podcasts saying, yeah, the aliens are real. I saw them. They're mating with people and they're experimenting, and we reverse engineer the technology. Stuff that Bob Lazar has been talking about, Area 51 stuff for years, decades actually. And I think all of this slow disclosure is pre-programming for the potential use of Project Bluebeam. They're going to do something. They're not floating all this alien stuff out for no reason. I mean, Spielberg's movie didn't come out at the exact same time that there's all this government disclosure going on. Obama has a movie coming out about Betty and Barney Hill, which was like the first abduction in the 1950s when they had the flying saucer epidemic. So there's three big pop culture things happening all in this year, and it's not a coincidence, right? FDR said in politics there are no coincidences. These things are not coincidences. They got something up their sleeve. I don't know if it's Project Bluebeam per se, but that's what I think. That's where I think this is all going. They're going to use it as a means to influence us, and to, there's different ideas of why they want to do it. Like if they could have the aliens either be good guys or bad guys, right? If they're good guys, then we have to unite and listen to whatever they tell us, which is going to be the government pretending they're aliens and telling us what they want us to do. Or if they're bad guys, it unites us as we have a common foe. Now, everything bad that happens in the world, it's not the politicians' fault. It's the aliens did it, right? It doesn't have to be the Russians or the Chinese anymore. It could be, well, the Iranians. Now it's the aliens. So they can use it. They can spin it whatever way they need to at that time and juncture. So I think this is a last gasp effort to reclaim moral authority for Hollywood. You know, Spielberg's like the god of Hollywood, and for the mainstream media, and even the government. Because in the movie, the government is at first trying to stop this information from getting out, and they finally say, "Oh, you know what? That's the right thing to do. We should do it." And they just give up. If they spend the whole movie trying to kill these people, then they just give up. The whole movie is Nenarded. It's made for Nenards, and I was insulted by it, frankly. So you can go see it, or you can take my word for it. I'll save you, the $40 or whatever you're going to pay for this movie, because it's an inversion, again, a myth inversion, taking these myths of Hansel and Gretel and Project Bluebeam and the whole alien motif, and twisting it for their own nefarious purposes. Now, as far as the other movie I want to talk about, which is the other summer blockbuster, which is Back Rooms, it kind of dovetails with this in a way, because Back Rooms didn't start on the Hollywood Hills, like with Spielberg. It started in the back rooms of the internet. It started as a 4chan post, and it gained traction organically. People liked this idea, and they liked the imagery and the story. And then it built into something, like I say, organically, that became a grassroots thing, and it became the #1 movie in the country. And rightly so, because this movie is like, I mean, you leave this movie feeling you just saw something special, original, not predictable. And this movie has to deal with not exploring extraterrestrials or outer space, but the inner space of our mind and consciousness and multiple dimensions in the multiverse that exists on our field of consciousness, and that we can access it through certain means, either through portals where the veil is thin between the dimensions, or through the use of consciousness expanding drugs like DMT. And in the movie, these kind of shadowy government/corporate entities are exploring and mapping this other dimension. Now, a lot of people think, and there's some evidence to back this up, that this is the real space program, right? This is why we haven't gone back to the moon. We just spun around it a couple weeks ago for no reason. Why we haven't built bases on the moon, why we haven't gone to Mars, because the real space exploration is within our minds. And these new astronauts are going into these other dimensions and charting them and mapping them and trying to understand them. That's the real space program. So that movie is fascinating. And it's like, there's scenes in there that I swear to God felt like they tapped into my consciousness, because it was scenes from nightmares I had, not cliched, corny nightmares like the monster under your bed, but these sort of labyrinthine, ordinary scenes like that become somehow ominous. Ordinary rooms and staircases that go to nowhere. And I've had these dreams like that. I'm like, God, it's like, this is like watching a movie of my own personal dream. So maybe they did tap into my consciousness through the collective unconscious. Maybe all of us. Maybe this is dreams that a lot of people have. I don't know. But I highly recommend that movie. And the other movie is just, really, don't waste your money. Don't waste your time. I wouldn't even watch it on Netflix. It doesn't deserve our support. It's trash. Spielberg should be ashamed of himself. And I'm disgusted with it because it's just speaking down to me. Like I said, if you would have got Chris Carter to write the screenplay, who created the X-Files, this guy was thinking 30 years ago about this stuff in a much more profound and nuanced way than Spielberg's ham-fisted, crappy popcorn movie. So you want to watch something in that genre, go watch the old X-Files. They're great. Anyway, I think I covered everything about this movie that I want to say. I mean, I could keep rambling on about it, but don't see it. It's trash, okay? And the way Spielberg is going out, if he's going out with this one, it's really going out on a low note. But keep your minds open and your eyes open, and you can see the symbols and the pre-programming and the predictive programming and the messaging. Especially, it's the only reason to watch this show is to see what they're trying, what they want us to believe, and what they want, how they want us to think, and who they want us to trust and who they don't want us to trust. And it's very obvious in this movie through this overt, just hammer on the nail propaganda. So, but by watching these things, you can decode it and understand it. And that's the value in it. The only value in this movie is to understand how propaganda works and how it's being used against you and me. All right. Happy summer. Happy film watching. And until next time, Tony Frieda here. See you then.